Hello, you're at the desk. I'm Wayne Yo, your host. This is the Old People's Complaint Desk. Yes, but this one is specifically for Gen X and Millennial. Those two generations. If you are lucky, you're going to be old like me. If you're not, then don't worry about it. And then, if you are lucky and you're old like me, let's see now. What you in for? How about we talk about culture for a second? Image, for example. And how we old people are looked at, or whatever, in the United States. How is that? Well, I'll simply say that in America, old people are invisible. Yeah, nobody wants to see us. You see somebody hobbling down the road, you don't want to be bothered, you don't want to see them, you want to put it behind your mind, right? Kind of like homeless. You stroll the waterway nowadays and you can see that the street is no longer providing parking because it's all RVs. You go to the commons in the middle of your town and there's 40 or 45 tents there and 60 residents. So you're not going to the commons for a year or so until they do something about that. So what do? You're driving down the road. Look at all the nice little boats in the waterway on the river. And you're looking right over the RVs. So, invisible. We're invisible. Septuagenarians. So normally, to me, invisibility means it's something unpleasant to look at. You don't want to look at something because it's unpleasant. It strikes too close to home, so it's invisible. Okay. So, I'm invisible. And that's odd because not everyone's invisible when they're my age. No, if you see an expensive car and this dude driving around in it with a babe about a half his age and such, and you look at that and you say, wow, man, sure, he went and dumped his old wife, he had her for so many years, went and got some money. So now he's going to spend his money, and he's got this hot car and a nice young babe next to him. You want to sometimes just be like him. Or you're in a gym and you watch somebody and he's an old guy, he's all gray hair and everything, and he's bench pressing 250 pounds. Then you're impressed. But otherwise, invisible. Girls, don't look at us. We're invisible because there's nothing we're going to do. Nothing we can do except lech at them. And everybody else, invisible. Now, if you go to another country, let's say Greece, for example, the old people there are not invisible. They're more or less looked at. Someone like me, my age, and complexion and all that stuff is looked at in a manner of respect, admiration, appreciation. In other words, like, wow, he's here, he's American, he's not decrepit, and I'm going to charge him 4 times what I'll charge one of my neighbors because he's an American, and we're going to take advantage of him. But for their own, no. They give due respect and assume that the individual is a distinguished person because they lived this long, they're still alive, they're moving about, and they have a head on their shoulders. Odd. Gee, that's how I care. No, that's not here. Go south of the border, South America, Central America, and it's Señor Rampa or Señor Abuelo, the patriarch of the family who commands respect and obedience, and he gets it. Different kind of culture. They see their old people differently. And we don't see our old people because they're invisible. But there are some. There are some out there who see the old people and figure that there's a sucker born every minute. No, not really. But they see an old person, and what are you going to do with this old person? This old person can't go anywhere, go here or there. If I just look at the old person, what do they look like? Well, my God, do you understand? People over 75 years old, 40.9% of them are obese. They're not overweight, they're obese. Obese is the new overweight. The numbers are similar for the next class, which would be 60 to 75. Obese, right. So when you see an American that is invisible, the chances are the individual's obese and you don't want to look at it anyway. But, there are some people who find that obesity very interesting because they have, that obesity brings sickness. Yep, look at an American, I see an obesity right off the bat. Boom, that must be a type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. God, does he wear a CPAP at night? What can we sell him? It's bad enough that the son of a gun has body parts that are wearing out. Knee, hip, whatever. Give me a new one. Implant here, implant there. But then you've got to throw on sicknesses on top of that. So when you look at an old person that you're going to ignore, that is invisible to you, the chances are the person's obese, sickly, on a lot of meds. Whoa, really? So, can you think of any reason why that person would want to not live? You want to live, old person? I'll tell you what, you buy this from me and you'll live. So let's take that obese person of the 40.9% of those in 75 to above age bracket, and they're going to, you see them, you might see type 2 diabetes right off the bat, or maybe type 1, but they're going to need insulin. So what do? You sell them insulin. Did you know that insulin in the United States of America is the highest priced stuff anywhere in the world? Do you know that? Yes. Everywhere else in the world you go, you can get insulin for much less money than what you'll pay for it here at home in the USA. How is that possible? Well, of course, the medical system nowadays here in this country is a product of our practices and, culture. And that's that medical system that is looking at these old people and saying, let's charge as much as we can and make as much as we can from them. Okay, so they charge you an arm and a leg for insulin, where nowhere else in the world will they charge you anywhere near this, which is going to make things hurt because it's going to get expensive after a while, like it's not already. And what are you going to do? Geez, I don't know. But there's a waterway down in the city, and if you got an RV, you can park there, you'll have a water view, and then you'll be invisible again. So what are you going to do? You're going to pay it. If you can't pay it, you own a house, sell your house. You need the money to go and pay for all this stuff. And God forbid you should have yourself a hip replaced because they wear out when you're a septuagenarian. And what's your copay going to be on a hip replacement? Don't worry, you can be in pain. You won't get pain pills anymore because they make it harder than heck. And you might not even be able to walk, which would mean you'd be a little bit more obese. So what have we got so far? We got in America, you look at an American, it's invisible. You want it to be invisible, an American old person, because why? It's ugly. It's not going to be really appealing to look at. It's obese. It's sickly. It's got all these things going on. You can't even walk up and down a couple of flights of stairs. And people in other countries, they look at the older Americans in that age group and they say, my goodness, let's sell our stuff to them for 4 times as much. And, that's what some of the people who produce insulin are saying. Let's sell it to them for 4 times as much. So they're doing that as well as everything else because that's the way they want to do it. Now, the other countries look at the older people differently. They look at them as an asset, someone who got to this place where we are now, got us to where we are now, and thank you very much. So we're going to appreciate that by, first they have a society outlook where they say, let's make sure that everyone has health care because we're an advanced, industrialized nation and everyone needs health care. It's more or less a right to it. If you got everything else, it's an inalienable right. Let's give them health care. So they have a single payer, an insurance, or a health system or something. And then you go and buy insulin over there, and it's not going to be cheap. Matter of fact, you probably have like a $10 copay, and once you do that, everything else for the year is paid for. But that's because the people in that country, the millennials, that would have been the millennials and the Gen Zs and the Gen Xs, mostly Gen X and millennials, they are the people in power. And the people in power make the rules and the policy and the laws and the legislation. So they made rules, policy, laws, legislations that takes a market and takes the fangs out of the markets to make it so less predatory. Yep. And predatory, you're not going to find an old person in any of the other industrialized nations going bankrupt because they got sick. You're not going to find them having to sell their homes that they've worked and saved for all of their life, the only thing they have left, because they got sick and they had to pay their copays and everything else. It's not going to happen. The people who were in power, and who was in power that is now boxing us in, who made all the rules, regulations, established the market, and the market methodologies that make you go bankrupt if you can't afford insulin to live. Right? Who made that? The baby boom generation, us, we did, of course. The people before us may have had a hand in it to some degree, but really it's us and it's the Gen X's. We're the ones that are in power, not much more the not much more the baby boom generation, as much as the Gen X, which is up to 60 years old. Baby boomers are 60 to 80. Gen X is 40 to 60. Anybody born in 1980 up to a certain line, they're Gen X. Before that, for the 20 years before that, that's the next generation, is millennial. So right now, millennials are in their 30s, Gen X's are in their 40s and 50s. Those are your power years. That is when you have the ability to get your people in Congress and establish laws that are beneficial to the society at large. It might mean that you have to change your culture, because so far the Gen X's and the baby boom generation have done everything they could to squeeze the older people, the people who are old, me and everyone else in this world, squeeze us penniless. If we get sick. They'll squeeze us penniless anyway, but they really will if we get sick, because they know we're going to get sick. Look at the demographics. How many people are obese? God, 40% of people 75 years old, older. How many millions of people are that? Yeah, you got what I'm saying? So look, millennials, you're just starting to really establish your career and your earning potential. And you're going to set yourself up. You're going to do the first steps of setting yourself up to be 70, retired, not have to work. Hey, if you're lucky, you might retire by the time you're 50. Yeah. Or you may just never do anything. Just don't play, and that's it. And the Gen X, well, I'm telling you, 40 to 80, Gen X, 40 to 60 age bracket, don't tell me that those aren't the CEOs. I mean, the only people working these days that's over 75 years old are politicians. I don't think you can call that working, but they're getting paid, and they're getting excellent health care, by the way. So who's the people of power now? a baby boom generation, is waning in power. Waning. Gen X is at the peak of their power, and millennials are just starting to come into it. So listen, you two, Millennial and Gen X, and I got kids in each generation. What kind of shape you want to be in when you're 70, 75 years old? First off, you want to be obese or you want to be in shape. Second off, all the other things that go on, they're out of your control because they're a part of culture. They're a part of the way Americans look at these older people. You know what it takes to look differently or to be less victimized or preyed upon? It takes you two generations doing something now so that 20 years down the road, you've established something, some standard of behavior towards old people. Because by George, just by the time you slip into being an old person, a septuagenarian, it'll take that long to get your laws, policies, programs, et cetera, into effect. Unless you're a Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the country's in the middle of a depression, and he'll get you out of a depression and just give him about another 15 years and you'll have the best prosperity ever. But that don't look likely. Do you think it does? So millennials, Gen X, you got enough going on right now with the way the environment is turning out? Guess who did that too? Yeah, us and the people before us. We had help. That was also part of culture. The Industrial Revolution. Yeah, burn it all up. So, you got enough to do. Here's one more thing to do. But you can actually do something that may become effective to help cushion you so that if you get sick, that one sickness, you don't have to end up in an RV or in one of the tents over in the Commons. No, you wouldn't? Well, you never know. Maybe you will. Or close to it, because there before the grace of God go I. That's so many times in my life. It only takes one. And there's an awful lot of people out there who never figured they'd be doing that, and they're living out of their car. So you know what? You need to treat old people better starting now. You need to make a few laws or policies that protect them starting now. You need to start the dialogue on what it's like to be old starting now. And you need to learn from other countries about what it's like to be old and how you see old people, and you need to start doing that now. Or if you're a septuagenarian or something close and you married a foreign national, go to her country and live there. It's going to be a lot easier than it is here, and by the statistics and information I have, by people who did exactly that years and years ago, it is a lot less stressful. So, what you going to do, you're going to sit here 20 or 40 years from now in front of a camera. I don't think it's going to be me. You never know. And you're going to say, what? What kind of shape is your generation in? You going to change the culture? Yeah, better. Because I'm telling you, it's hell being up here, over here, wherever. It's hard. There's a lot to fear. And we're going to talk about that the next video. There's a lot, the next episode, the next show. Yeah, there's a lot to fear. And you have the ability now, you, millennials, Gen Xers, one kid and another kid, is how I see them. You have the ability now to do something about it down the road when you need it. Start thinking of what you're going to do. Okay? But whatever you do, please subscribe. Please subscribe. Send this to a friend. Get into an argument over it. You know, have the baby boomer, millennial rivalry go on or something. Do something. It's fun. All right, I'll see you later. Have a good week now. Bye.